our special guest for today, probably the first Rays fan I've ever met, and one of my good friends, Brett, aka Brody Leff. How's it going, my guy?
Hey, how are you? It's nice to be here.
Yeah, no, I've been looking forward to having you on the show for a while. I've been looking. You're probably the first Rays fan that came to mind. Actually, the only Rays fan that came to mind.
I'm not surprised as being the only Rays fan I know. So I'm not surprised that I'm the first Rays fan on here. There's not that many Rays fans, especially in New York. So it's a nice feeling.
Now, I don't know if we've talked about this before over the past 3 or 4 years that we've known each other, but how did you become a Rays fan? I forgot to.
Well, it all happened like when I was a kid. My family used to take trips down to Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like while I was into baseball, I didn't really find my team. I was like kind of rooting for the Mets for a little bit because my family's all Mets fans.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw like a Rays game, and I'm talking like Longoria, Upton, Crawford Rays, like 2000, like the year before 2000, like 2007 season.
Right.
So that's when I was like, you know what? I'm gonna root for this team. They seem like a fun group of guys, and I've stuck with them ever since. And I mean, I'd say it's been a fun ride because they've had the highs, they've had the lows, and they've hit those in betweens as every team does. But it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, no, you came to them at like the perfect time, right as they were starting to get good, right as they had that miracle ride, and right as they kind of became one of those teams you just never made deals with. And what's it been like rooting for a small market team for all those years and staying faithful despite being like so far away from them?
It's the biggest. It's one of the most annoying things because they're obviously not going to go after like the big guys. They're not getting like their superstar free agents. They're not getting Judge, Stanton, whatever their free agents. They're not going to go after those big names. But they're going to get like guys like Austin Meadows. He was a stud as a young guy on the Pirates, which obviously they love to just give everyone away that has talent. But they just pluck the right guys when they're young. So they kind of like they're similar to the Dodgers, but they don't have the money.
Right.
They don't have the money, but they make it work somehow. It's like the Dodgers, the Cardinals, all those teams, they make deals. They know what they're doing, but the Rays they don't have the money, but they know what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. They've had a lot of good front office guys, Chaim Bloom and Andrew Friedman. Andrew Friedman, who incidentally is now the GM of the LA Dodgers, is an example. And Chaim Bloom, he's already working his magic with the Boston Red Sox, and you see how they're doing, unfortunately, for both of us.
Yeah.
But now let's get to this series against the Yankees. Obviously, the first game, the Yankees ended up winning 4-3. You guys ended up chipping away at this game. Chad Green, despite his best efforts, kept it close. And this was actually the first game in a long time that I really saw Aroldis Chapman dominate. Granted, he let Wander Franco on first base with a walk at the end, but he got Nelson Cruz out at the end of the game. What were your thoughts going into this series?
Going in, I had a feeling because the Rays love to do this after the All-Star break, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later, but the Rays love to like just pretend like it's the beginning of the season. Like they'll love to like, be like, all right, we'll reset. All-Star break happened. All right, everything's A-okay. They'll lose like the first 2 series, and then they'll be like, oh, right, it's almost time for the playoffs. We got to get good. And it's insane because they always seem to like kick in at the right moment. Like today, like I didn't like I was driving home. I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to talk about the Rays getting swept, aren't I? And then I see the notification 14-0 final, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm hoping that this is the start. I'm really praying because 14-0 is that we outscored you in one game in the whole series.
Yeah, if we do the math, I think you pretty much outscored us. Let's see, 14 plus 3 is 17 plus 1 is 8. 18-5, I think. I know my math generally sucks, but 18-5, I think.
Like
that just shows you that baseball is a funny game, and
it's such a weird game. Like you'll lose the first 2. Like I honestly think the reason, like this is gonna sound like such a cop out, but the Rays and extra innings do not go well together. They never have.
Right.
They never will. Like, especially with this rule. I hate this rule. It's the runner on second. It's one of my least favorite things about baseball. I heard something that they were getting rid of it. I don't know if that's true.
I think they are next year, which I think every one of us can agree. Thank goodness. That rule is just such an abomination.
The point of baseball is to play until there's a winner. It's not like, oh, you got a charity runner on second. Like, no.
That sounds like those Little League Ghost Runner games.
It's literally straight out of Little League.
That was a weird series. And, I'll tell you what. This might sound like a hot take, but I'm butchering his name. Nestor Cortez has probably been one of the more reliable Yankee pitchers over the past few weeks. As strange as that might sound.
It's hard to come by for you guys. A reliable bullpen guy.
Oh no, he's not just a bullpen guy. He started the second.
He can do everything. He's a very Rays pitcher.
Nestor Cortez is like that rare Yankee pitcher that can start and relieve. And I think I kind of had a feeling that the Yankees were going to win with him starting because of the hot streak he had this year. And I'm going to be honest too, even though Garrett Cole was starting the third game, I wasn't confident that the Yankees were going to win this. Now, granted, I know you and I were both seeing each other at work all day, and you were all dismayed about how the Yankees were going to be probably lose that series, or sweep us. But you know what? I wasn't as confident. And the reason being is the Yankees' record. You know what their record is going into a series with a chance to sweep? 4-10.
4-10.
Like they can never put their foot on another team's throat. They never every time you have a chance to feel good about the Yankees this season, there's always something or some other team, some bad moment that just gets in the way and reminds you why they're in third place to begin with and why they were kind of up and down to begin the season. So that really wasn't a surprise. What did surprise me, however, was I did not expect Garrett Cole to implode the way he did. I mean, he gave up a 3-run home run in the first inning to Austin Meadows.
That I will disagree with. If you look back at last year in the playoffs, the Rays read Garrett Cole like a book. The guy who I expected to do better against Garrett Cole was G-Man Choi. I mean, he didn't have he had a good game today, but there's something about him and Meadows. They can hit Cole.
Right.
They're not afraid of Cole. I don't know if there's anything with Meadows being a Pirate and Cole being a Pirate. Were they there at the same time? I'm not sure. I think
no.
But there's something with Austin Meadows hitting home runs off of Garrett Cole. Obviously, that home run that Judge should have caught at any other ballpark last year in the ALDS. But I think that the Rays against Garrett Cole are confident because I've said it for a while. I think Garrett Cole is. This is going to sound very biased, but I think he's pretty much overrated. I think people, especially Yankee fans, tend to build up Garrett Cole a lot more. They're like, oh, he's the best pitcher in New York. That's not even remotely true. Right. You got a guy on the Mets that is out of this world.
I'm not going to argue with you on that.
I don't think he's human, DeGrom.
I've been saying it on this show many times, so you're not going to get any arguments from me.
It's unfair, that guy, and it's a shame he's hurt.
It really is, and we'll probably get to that team a little bit later, but here's where I was surprised. It wasn't so much the Austin Meadows home run. I'll give you that. You're right that Austin Meadows has been one of many in a long line of Yankee killers. Probably really the first Yankee killer that you guys have had, maybe since Evan Longoria, if I can really think of any good Rays that have killed the Yankees. But the 10-run inning, that was unexpected. You put up a football score. I thought it was like Buccaneers 14, Giants nothing. Oh, wait, wrong sport. My bad.
But I'm going to mind right now, my favorite Ray is Brett Phillips. And he's the funniest guy from his pitching, from when he came out of the bullpen, from him at the All-Star game as an analyst. He's one of the most entertaining baseball players I've ever seen.
He really is.
He's an entertaining guy. And
you guys are respectable too. Like, you have a lot of good personalities. You don't have too many stars, and You know, it's interesting. You guys only had one All-Star. It was Mike Zunino, right?
Mike Zunino, and he did something in the All-Star game, which was that was the loudest I've ever screamed for Mike Zunino, besides last year in the playoffs.
You know who the last Ray to hit a home run in the All-Star game was? Good trivia question for you.
It was Crawford. I think, no, it was the last Rays home run I know was Crawford in 2007. Or 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 07. It was it was in San Francisco.
It was
Crawford. Ichiro had the inside the park home run.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's pretty crazy, and really goes to show you the Rays are really an interesting squad. Now, obviously, I think we got to talk a little bit about the trade deadline too for you guys.
It's insane.
Nelson Cruz. I remember telling you that you guys got Nelson Cruz, and you were pretty ecstatic to say the least.
You sent me the thing, and I was like, "Wait, is this real?" Because I said it like, when was he a free agent? Before he signed with the Twins, I was like, he's coming to Tampa. He's gonna be a Ray, and he signed with the Twins. I'm like, he's gonna be a Ray still. I can tell. I didn't expect us to go after him this year, but I'm glad we did. He's a good addition. He's honestly probably the biggest name on our lineup. Like, he's the most well-known guy on our lineup. No one's going to know. Maybe a Rosarena after everything that happened last year. But I think...
make the case for Austin Meadows, too, possibly, if he continues to improve.
Yeah. I mean, he was last year, too.
Glasnow probably was a pretty big name, too, but unfortunately, we know what happened to him.
Yeah.
And I know you guys really could use him right now. But speaking of pitching, I was really surprised about dealing Rich Hill. What were your thoughts on that?
You know, honestly, I didn't even realize we traded him until I read it. until I was reading the notes. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot we traded him to the Mets. And I thought it was a cute story, like how we had him and Cruz, the two old guys, clubbing it out. He's a good pitcher. Like, he's always been reliable. Like, even when he was on the Dodgers, he was reliable. He was having a decent year. I mean, the last couple of starts were shaky for him.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know why the Mets went after him, because all their pitchers they're just falling like flies.
Yeah.
So they just need anyone that can pitch.
They really do, because, like, they've had to rely on bullpen games in some of their games. Like, they had to start Aaron Loop in a game. And that was a game they ended up blowing because they tried to rely on Edwin Diaz for a 5-out save, and you can't always rely on that with a closer. That's the problem. And
with Edwin Diaz especially.
And now, not to mention, Taijuan Walker has been struggling a bit since the end of the All-Star game. So they need more production.
Mike Zunino hit a home run off him.
Mike Pineda?
Since Mike Zunino hit a home run.
Or Zunino, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Mike Pineda, that's a throwback.
Sorry, I misheard you. That was my bad. But yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting second half for the Rays. Now, I'm curious to know, what would you say your grade for the Rays front office was for this trade deadline?
Well, I mean, obviously there's going to be moves. I think I knew we weren't going to get him, but I would have loved to have landed Scherzer. I think a pitcher would have been nice. A starting pitcher, especially nice, because our bullpen's always been the Rays bullpen. Something that's always been something of a like. What was their nickname last year? It was I think it's horses. I'm blanking on it, but
the cavalry or something, or not? I don't know.
The cow. It was I don't remember what it was. Just stable. It was a stable.
Stable. And
they've always been good, but a nice starting pitcher. I knew we were going to get Scherzer because that was the Padres are just getting everyone. The Padres and the Yankees this deadline have just been like, yeah, we'll take them. But I would have liked to have seen a starting pitcher. I'm still hoping for Gibson. We'll see what happens.
Now, what have your thoughts been about Wander Franco? He's been a big story coming up. He was the number one prospect. That was pretty cool seeing him get a big hit in his first game.
I loved seeing that. I still thought they were going to bring him up last year in the playoffs.
Really?
Yeah. I was hoping for it because he was on his Instagram. He kept like showing up with the team. And I was like, oh my God, he's coming. And then they're like, oh, nope, he's not. And then the World Series is over. So, I mean, I was hoping it would be sooner. And I think he is one of the most talented players one of the young talented players I've ever seen. Like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, no, he's really good. He's got a great swing.
He has
I'm really looking forward to seeing what he could do. Now, of course, I'm also pretty worried knowing as a Yankee fan, he could also be another one of those Rays that's potentially a good one in a long line of Yankee killers. But, when you see a good prospect with a lot of potential, it's always really cool. And I got to talk to you about the Red Sox, obviously, because we know they have been overachieving a lot.
Unfortunately, we have to talk about the Red Sox.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, if we're going to talk about the Rays fighting for first place, obviously we can't do it without talking about the Red Sox. I mean, listen, as much as I hate to praise them, they have been, absolutely what can I say? They have that never give up mentality every single game.
It's similar to the 2004 one.
I was thinking more along the lines of 2013 because that team was overachieving all year. And by the way, let me give you a little comment right here. So this dude is a big Rays fan. He needs to go follow the Twitch streamer Coco Sports. I don't know if you've heard of this guy, but seems pretty cool if he's a diehard Rays fan. And hey, maybe another good Rays fan for you to talk to.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, no, back to the Red Sox. Yeah, they remind me a lot of the 2013 team in the sense that nothing was expected of that team. Now, granted, this year, unfortunately, they're not dealing with quite the tragedy that happened to their city as they did 8 years ago. But still, regardless of how you feel, biased or not, it was an interesting story, even if you didn't exactly root for the outcome. But they have a lot of those guys who may not necessarily be superstars, but they get the big hits when needed. They don't rely on the home runs. The pitching, much like the 2013 team, wasn't overpowering.
It's not overpowering, but it's somehow performing extremely well.
Yeah, you have Nick Pivetta, who was a Philadelphia cast-off.
He's been so good this year. It's weird seeing him pitch so well. It's just he needed to get out. He needed to get out of Philly. He found himself a new home, and he's having a great year. And the guy that I think really gives them the spark is Verdugo. I think Verdugo, I knew he was going to be a great player when he was on the Dodgers. Right. He's a fantastic outfielder. He's a fantastic hitter. He knows how to play. It's as much as I hate saying this, they deserve first place right now. You can see why they're in first place.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Nathan Eovaldi is another guy who's given them some quality starts. He's a Yankee cast-off that I think I told you was a very big mistake when Cashman let him go because, look, I know he was never an ace when he was with the Yankees, but I always saw that he had good stuff. I always thought he could get
3-4 guy. He was. I don't depending on your rotation, he could fit in anywhere, and he'd still give you a good game.
And I'm convinced that if the Yankees had kept him on the roster and still did a lot of the moves they made, I think very well they could have kept him. They could have probably won a World Series had they kept him, or at the very least, they could have beaten the Red Sox in that 2018 series.
I think maybe even beating Houston. Maybe even beating Houston the next year.
Maybe. All I know is he's another pitcher who really is thriving in Boston.
Oh yeah,
and it just goes to show you they're a really good, well-run organization, really fundamentally sound, and
they know what they're doing.
They do.
They're not playing around.
And you should know because the guy who is their current GM, let's face it, he built your 2020 AL pennant winners.
Yeah, 100%.
So
as much as I was nervous they'd lose that series to Houston, that still gets me nervous. Just talking about it, I get I got chills. I was like, oh God, that again.